Hello everyone, welcome to a new video where I explain concepts about marketing. So today we're going to talk about newsletters, but we're going to start with B2B. So this whole video is about B2B. If you want to learn about newsletters in B2C, please wait for the next video. So the first thing we should start with is how often you should be sending that newsletter. And please, even if you're B2B, never send a newsletter every single day unless you're a news platform, which it is fine, I guess. But I think every single day is just way too much. You're gonna be suffocating your customers and nobody wants to hear from you every single day. You don't hear from your family every single day. Why should you hear about a company every single day? So please keep that in mind while you're thinking about how often you should be sending that newsletter. And the second type could be weekly. But here's the thing, can you manage enough resources to be able to send interesting, useful content to your customers every single week? Because to be able to do this, you have to have a lot of time, a lot of resources, a team that is taking care of only newsletters and external communications. So unless you are sure and very confident that you're not gonna just crowd your customers' inbox, I say do it. But what I advise you to, and what is best practice, to send it once per month or quarterly. I mean, to hear about a company you're already doing business with or you're thinking about doing business with, once per month sounds like a good deal. So I would say once per month is good, or quarterly, it's even better if you don't have enough resources, if you don't have a lot of news going on, like once per quarter is also good. Now, we go to the question where, what should I be including in that newsletter or the email that I'm sending about the newsletter? Well, let's start with the email. So there is three important things that I would say are really important about the email. The first is the subject, the second is the opening line, and three is the content of that email. So let's get into it. The subject line. Well, you have to describe a bit what you're talking about, but also make it interesting. Like, if you're sending your monthly newsletter, don't just write monthly newsletter. I mean, come on. Add something creative, something interesting, something that would intrigue me to read that opening line, okay? So let's move to that opening line. Should it be just a description? Should it be just summarizing what your email has? Maybe not. It has to be something really interesting. It could be funny, it could be anything, but just not boring. Because just summarizing what your newsletter is about could be boring. So keep that in mind. And I've been seeing this as a trend recently, that companies would send the first newsletter and they sent a second email after it, and the opening line is, sorry for the earlier email, we've made a mistake. Which is, they do it on purpose because you'd be intrigued, oh, what? They did a mistake. Oh, let me go check that. So generally they do it on purpose for you to check the previous email, and that has shown to have great opening rates. So if you want to go ethical, I don't think you should do it, but if you really have this big thing that you really want to make sure people read it, maybe go that way. I would also suggest, I mean, for me, the way companies do it is when they do it the funny way. Because who doesn't like funny stuff? Even if it's lame, you'd be like, oh, what? Let me check that. And you do. Then let's move to the third one, which is the content. So the content, now we can get a little bit boring on the boring scale, like just a little bit. There, I think you should be summarizing what your newsletter about, but doing it in a way that is like a trader, you want to make them read the newsletter. So add some excitement, some mysterious stuff, tell a big fact without actually telling the end of it, or just, get the hook, make them click on that link. And there is something that I like when companies do it from, like when we do it, or when companies do it from time to time, is when they add GIFs or memes. So you have to be really smart how to use those, because the good thing is when you're working in a B2B, you already know that the people you're sending this to, they're already interested in your products. So you already have them in hand, but you have to make sure they go till the very end to, be with you. Because, with the company I work with, the opening rates for our emails are super great, and because we follow these best practices. So here is one more thing. So you want them to click on that icon, right? Or that button. Okay, you have to make sure what's inside is good, so the next time they don't be like, no, it's not worth it. You have to make the content of your newsletter amazing. And how do you do that? Let's go through it. So the first part, and I think every single newsletter should have, is a little message from either the editor, the CEO, someone important in the company. And they would be talking to their customers, to their distributors, sharing something that they think would be important to know. And that actually gives always a good start. Then we move on to next. What you should be doing is explaining the latest things in your company. If it's products, if it's just upgrades of I don't know what, anything that is interesting, but don't make it 4 pages. Just a page, maximum 2, about the news is great. Then we go to another part that is very, very important, is that if you have a lot of news about the company, just spread them in between. But what is the between? Teach them something new. This is the golden rule, I say. If you want to keep your customers reading, teach them something. This is the best way. Educational content gets very, very high engagement. Also, one last tip for the content of the newsletter is that if you're explaining your products, and I'm gonna say this again, you're in a B2B, so your customers already know what kind of product you're providing. So don't go dump explaining some of your product specs. They already know how the product works probably. And you just want to go and teach them or show them the things they want to know about your product. So go about the specs, but specs that are really interesting. So, if a product is usually sent this high, don't mention the size because they already know how big it is, okay? So I would say keep the specs smart, let them know what they want to know, and at the very end, do something special, do something creative that will make them want to click on your email the next time. Well, that was about it. I hope you learned something with this video, and see you in another one.